Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive.
Always fun to go deep on a new topic.
This one I think is going to be especially interesting. We're diving into gratitude today.
Ooh, gratitude. Love it.
But not just like the surface level, be thankful kind of stuff.
Right, right.
We're going deeper, looking at how understanding where good things come from can actually change how you see the world.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. That's the core of it, I think.
We've got a couple of sources for this one. First, there's an episode of the podcast Embracing Gratitude, Recognizing Life's Daily Gifts.
Catchy title.
And then we're also going to be looking at some passages from the Bible, see how those connect.
Always interesting to see how those ancient ideas still resonate,
Totally.
Yeah.
So the podcast starts off by talking about gratitude for just like being alive, for the chance to start fresh each day, all that.
Fundamental stuff. Easy to forget, though, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. It's like
Okay.
that sets the stage for everything else. And that ties in perfectly with the idea of empowerment we see in Psalms 18.34-35. It says, he makes my feet like the feet of deer and sets me on my high places. He trains my hands for battle and my arms bend the brazen bow. Lots of imagery there, being equipped not just to survive, but to thrive.
I love that. Makes me think of those times when you're just like, raring to go, like nothing can stop you.
Oh, yeah, totally.
For me, it's when I'm working on a creative project, just totally in the zone.
Oh, yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
And the verse is connecting that energy, that feeling, to something bigger than ourselves.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? It's almost like, where does that get up and go actually come from?
Right. And the podcast jumps right into that question. They say, flat out, we don't have to deal with men or the devil. We have to do with God. Made me stop and think, for sure.
Wow. That's intense. It's like a challenge almost.
Yeah, it is. Like, are we focusing on the right things, putting our energy in the right place?
Definitely makes you think.
And then that leads us right into Lamentations 3.37, which says, who will say that a thing happens unless the Lord has ordained it? So, suggesting there's this bigger plan, even when things feel messy, random, unfair.
So it's not about denying that bad stuff happens, but about seeing it through a different lens.
I think so. It's tough though, right? Especially when you're in the middle of something painful.
Oh, absolutely. It's not like, just be positive and everything's fine.
No, not at all. More like acknowledging that even the hard stuff can be part of something bigger, even if we don't get it at the time.
Right, right. It's not diminishing the pain, but it's offering a different way to approach it, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that saying, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it.
Yeah.
But with this added layer of, like, spiritual understanding.
I like that, adding that extra dimension. And then there's this verse, Acts 17.28. It's so simple but so profound. For in him we have life, movement, and being.
Beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like
good.
just the fact that we exist at all, that's something to be thankful for.
Even before we get into the details of what's good or bad in our lives, we're here, experiencing it all.
It's amazing how easily we forget that.
Yeah, it really is. And that's where mindful gratitude comes in, I think. Actively choosing to remember to appreciate.
So it's not just about, like, the big stuff, right? The promotions and the weddings and all that.
Nope, not at all. It's the everyday stuff, too.
The small things. Like what?
Like a warm cup of coffee on a cold morning, a good laugh with a friend, feeling the sun in your skin.
Oh, I see what you mean. It's about shifting your focus, isn't it? From what's missing to what's already there.
Exactly. And that leads us to this verse that talks about good things coming from unexpected places. Romans 8.28, it says, all things work together for good to those who love God, to those who are called according to his purpose.
That's one that people get tripped up on sometimes. It doesn't mean bad things won't happen, right?
No, not at all.
So what does it mean?
It's about trusting that even when things are rough, there's a chance for growth, for positive outcomes, even if we can't see it yet.
So even when it feels like everything's falling apart, maybe it's actually falling into place.
It's a mind-blowing way to think about it, for sure. It's about trusting the process.
Even when we don't get it. And the podcast actually has a really beautiful example of this trust in action.
Oh, how so?
They include this powerful prayer of gratitude, and it's so specific, so personal.
Not just a generic thank you, then?
No way. It's like this outpouring of thankfulness for the smallest details of life. There's this one phrase, breath in my nostrils, Yahfela.
Yahfela.
Yeah, it means free in Lingala. So it's like they're recognizing the miracle of each breath, the freedom that comes with just being alive.
That's power.
It's like even when things feel heavy, there's always something to be grateful for if you just stop and notice it.
And that's the key, right? Noticing.
The podcast actually emphasizes that gratitude isn't about ignoring problems or pretending everything's perfect.
Right. It's not about that fake positivity.
No, it's about actively choosing to focus on the good stuff, even when things are hard.
So it's a skill then, something you can practice and get better at.
Like a mental muscle, maybe? The more you use it, the stronger it gets.
Think about it. If you spend all your time focusing on what's wrong, your brain gets wired for negativity.
Makes sense. But if you're looking for the good, you start to rewire things.
You train your brain to notice the positive, to appreciate it.
So it's like choosing to see the world through a more optimistic lens.
Exactly. And, it's not just about feeling good. There are actual tangible benefits to practicing gratitude.
Really? Tell me more.
There's a lot of research showing that gratitude can seriously impact your mental and emotional health, even your physical health.
Get out. So it's not just woo-woo, feel-good stuff.
Nope. Studies show that people who practice gratitude tend to have less stress and anxiety.
Okay, that makes sense.
They sleep better. Their immune systems might even be stronger.
Wow. So gratitude is literally good for you.
It seems so. It can be a powerful tool for just feeling better overall. And the best part is, anyone could do it.
I love that. No matter what your circumstances are, you have the capacity for gratitude.
Exactly. And the more you cultivate it, the more you open yourself up to experiencing joy, peace, a sense of abundance.
It's like that shift in perspective we were talking about earlier. When you focus on what you have rather than what you don't have, it changes everything.
It really does. You start to see that there's plenty to be grateful for, even when things are tough.
This deep dive is seriously making me rethink my whole approach to life. It's amazing how such a simple concept can be so powerful.
It's all about perspective, isn't it?
Yeah.
How we choose to see the world shapes our reality.
And gratitude is a way to shape that reality in a positive way.
Exactly. It's a choice. We can focus on the negative, or we can focus on the good.
And by choosing gratitude, we're choosing to see the beauty, the abundance, even in the midst of challenges.
It's like, putting on those rose-colored glasses.
But without ignoring the reality of the situation.
Right, more like learning to see the roses that are already there.
I love that. So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive into gratitude, what are some key takeaways for our listeners so far?
Well, I think the biggest one is that gratitude is more than just a feeling. It's a way of life.
A way of approaching the world.
Exactly. It's about actively choosing to focus on what we have, appreciating it, recognizing where it comes from.
And understanding that even challenges can be opportunities for growth.
If we approach them with a grateful heart.
So instead of asking, why me, when things get tough, we can ask, what is this teaching me? Or what can I learn from this experience?
Powerful questions.
They really are. And by shifting our focus from negativity to gratitude, we can experience more joy, more peace, more abundance. This has been incredibly insightful. I'm feeling inspired to start incorporating more gratitude into my own life.
That's great to hear. And remember, even small acts of gratitude can make a big difference.
So even if you're not feeling particularly grateful, you can still make the choice to express gratitude.
Absolutely. Sometimes the act of expressing it can actually shift your mood, change your perspective.
It's like, fake it till you make it.
In a way, yeah. You start to focus on the good even if you don't feel it at first, and eventually your brain starts to catch up.
That's pretty amazing. It's a reminder that we have the power to choose our attitude, even when things are difficult.
It's interesting to think about how this concept of gratitude might change our approach to those inevitable down days. What if, instead of getting bogged down by negativity, we intentionally looked for moments of gratitude?
That's a good point, like actively choosing to look for the silver lining.
Exactly. Those silver linings are always there, even if they're hidden. We just have to choose to see them.
Well said. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this part of our deep dive. Okay, so before the break, we were talking about how practicing gratitude can actually rewire your brain, help you see the good stuff.
Yeah, it's powerful stuff.
And I was just thinking about this time a few years ago, I lost my job, and it was like my whole world was falling apart.
Oh, man, that's rough.
It was awful at the time, but looking back, it kind of forced me to start my own business, which I'd always wanted to do, but was too scared to.
Wow, so that difficult experience actually led to something amazing.
It really did. It's like, what if that hadn't happened? Would I still be stuck in that job, unhappy?
Sometimes those challenges are like catalysts.
Yeah. Yeah.
They push you in a direction you wouldn't have gone otherwise.
So even when it feels like things are falling apart, maybe they're actually falling into place. It's kind of trippy to think about it that way.
It's about trusting the process, I think,
Yeah.
even when we don't understand it.
Right, right. And the podcast we're looking at actually gives a really beautiful example of this trust.
Oh, yeah. How so?
They include this prayer of gratitude, and it's not just like a general thank you for everything kind of thing.
It's more specific.
Oh, yeah, way more. It's like this deeply felt expression of gratitude for the smallest details of life. There's this one line, breath in my nostrils, Yahweh.
Awfully, what's that?
It means free in Lingala. So the person praying is like recognizing the miracle of each breath, the freedom that comes with just being alive.
Wow. Even when things feel overwhelming, they're finding something to be thankful for.
Exactly. And the podcast emphasizes that this isn't about ignoring problems or pretending everything's perfect.
Right, it's not about toxic positivity.
No, it's about actively choosing to focus on the good, even in the midst of the bad.
So it's a practice then, something you have to work at.
Yeah, I think so. It's like any skill, the more you practice, the better you get at it.
Makes sense. Like if you're always focusing on what's wrong, you're training your brain to look for the negative.
Right. But if you're looking for things to be grateful for, you're training it to see the positive.
You're rewiring your brain for happiness, essentially.
I like that. But beyond just feeling happier, are there any actual benefits to practicing gratitude?
Oh, tons. There's actually a growing body of research on this.
Really? Like what?
Well, studies have shown that people who regularly practice gratitude tend to have lower levels of stress and anxiety.
Okay, that makes sense.
They also tend to sleep better, and there's even evidence that it can boost your immune system.
Wow. So gratitude is literally good for you.
It seems so. It's not just about feeling good, it's about being healthy, both mentally and physically.
I love that. And anyone can do it, right?
Absolutely. No matter what your circumstances are, you have the capacity for gratitude.
And the more we practice it, the more joy, peace, abundance we experience.
It's like that shift in perspective we keep talking about, focusing on what we have instead of what we lack.
This is seriously blowing my mind. It's amazing how such a simple concept can be so powerful.
It all comes back to perspective. How we choose to see the world shapes our reality.
And gratitude is a way to shape that reality in a positive way.
It's a choice. We can choose to focus on the negative, or we can choose to focus on the good.
And by choosing gratitude, we're choosing to see the beauty, the abundance, even when things are tough.
It's like, putting on those rose-colored glasses, but without ignoring reality.
Right. It's not about pretending everything's perfect.
It's about choosing to see the good that's already there.
So, to sum up this part of our deep dive, what are some key takeaways for our listeners?
Well, I think the most important thing is understanding that gratitude is more than just a feeling. It's a way of life.
It's a practice, a choice we make every day.
Exactly. It's about actively choosing to focus on what we have, appreciating it, recognizing where it comes from.
And it's about remembering that even challenges can be opportunities for growth and transformation.
If we approach them with a grateful heart.
So instead of asking, why me, when things get tough, we can ask, what is this teaching me? Or what can I learn from this experience?
Those are powerful questions.
They really are. And by shifting our focus from negativity to gratitude, we can experience more joy, more peace, more abundance. I'm feeling really inspired to start incorporating more gratitude into my own life.
That's fantastic. And remember, even small acts of gratitude can make a big difference.
So even if you're not feeling super grateful at the moment, you can still make the choice to express gratitude.
Absolutely. Sometimes the act of expressing it can actually shift your mood, change your perspective.
It's like, fake it till you make it.
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah.
You start to focus on the good, even if you don't feel it at first, and your brain starts to catch up.
It's pretty cool how that works. It's a reminder that we have the power to choose our attitude even when things are difficult.
It's interesting to think about how this concept of gratitude might change how we handle those inevitable tough days. What if, instead of getting all bogged down by negativity, we actually looked for moments of gratitude?
That's a really good point. Like actively choosing to look for the silver lining.
Exactly. Those silver linings are always there. Sometimes they're just hidden. We just have to look for them.
Well said. On that note, I think it's time to wrap up this part of our deep dive. So we've been talking about gratitude and how powerful it can be.
Yeah, it's been a pretty insightful deep dive, I think.
I agree. And I'm really starting to see how these different sources we're looking at, the podcast and the Bible verses, how they all kind of point to the same idea.
They do, don't they? It's like this idea of acknowledging where the good stuff in our lives comes from.
Right. And how that changes our whole experience, even when things are hard.
Because when you realize that those good things, they come from somewhere, it shifts your perspective.
You're not just taking it for granted.
Exactly. You appreciate it more. Like that phrase from the podcast prayer, breath in my nostrils. It makes you realize breathing isn't just something that happens, it's a gift.
It is, isn't it? And that brings us back to something we talked about earlier, the idea that even tough times can be part of a bigger plan.
Yeah, that's a hard one to wrap your head around sometimes, but it keeps coming up in both the podcast and the Bible.
Like in Romans, all things work together for good. It's not saying bad things won't happen, but that something good can come out of them.
It's like that concept of post-traumatic growth. People go through incredibly difficult things, loss, illness, trauma, and sometimes they come out the other side stronger.
More resilient, with a deeper appreciation for life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not that the suffering itself is good, but it can lead to something good.
Maybe the potential is there.
And that potential might not be obvious right away. It might take time, reflection, a change in perspective down the road.
So what if, instead of dreading those hard times or asking, why me, we approach them with a sense of curiosity?
Like, what is this experience trying to teach me?
Exactly. It's like instead of being a victim, you become an active participant in your own growth.
It gives the pain a purpose, even if it doesn't take it away.
It's amazing how this whole conversation has been about shifting perspectives, isn't it? Seeing gratitude as more than just a feeling, but a way to navigate all of life's ups and downs.
And a way to connect to something bigger than ourselves, whether that's a higher power, the interconnectedness of everything, or just recognizing that we're part of something larger.
And that connection can give us strength, especially when we're struggling.
So for our listeners who are thinking, okay, I want to cultivate more gratitude, where do I even start? What advice would you give them?
I'd say start small. Don't try to change everything overnight.
Baby steps.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe just take a few minutes each day to think about what you're grateful for. Or keep a gratitude journal. Or just tell someone you appreciate them.
Those are all great ideas. And remember, it's a journey, not a destination. Some days will be easier than others.
Absolutely. There'll be times when it's hard to see the good. That's normal. Just gently bring your attention back to what you can be grateful for, even if it seems small.
It's like working out a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets.
And as that gratitude muscle gets stronger, you'll find you can face challenges with more resilience, experience more joy, live a life that feels more meaningful.
This has been a really great conversation. I've enjoyed exploring these ideas with you.
Me too. Thanks for being here.
My pleasure.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into gratitude. We hope you've learned some new things and maybe even feel inspired to bring more gratitude into your own lives.
Remember, even when things are tough, there's always something to be thankful for. Choose to focus on those blessings, and you'll find that even the darkest days can be brightened by the light of gratitude.
Until next time, stay curious, stay grateful, and keep exploring.